surveillance videos from area businesses, right?
Correct.
Including the speedway across the street.
Yes, sir.
And some of the video is of higher quality than others, right?
That is correct.
And then also identifying people who were present and obtaining cell phones of those, right?
Correct.
And just lots and lots and lots of stuff that happens.
Yes, sir.
Right. Ultimately, when you first got involved in this case as the lead case agent, you had a very limited piece of information, right?
Yes, sir.
That was information that was gleaned from the dispatch. It was gleaned from, just basic, what's called public safety reporting, correct?
Correct.
An individual had been detained, that individual passed away, and you began the normal critical incident process, agreed?
That is correct.
Which includes securing the scene, right?
Yes.
It includes securing potential evidence, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it includes interviewing witnesses.
That's correct.
All right. And the critical incident policies of the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension were followed in this particular case, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you conducted the first search of the Mercedes-Benz back on May 26th of 2020, you were present when that happened, right?
From some of the time.
Right. But another crime scene team analyst would have taken photographs, looked at things, and preserved that both digitally by way of photographs, plus keeping the actual evidence, right?
Yes, a BCA agent took the photographs.
That's Mackenzie Anderson?
No, that was Special Agent Joseph O'Brien.
Right. He was also a part of the crime scene team.
Yes, sir.
And so, again, your job is to investigate the case, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, did you review those photographs
Yes,
at
I
that
did.
time? Did you specifically take note at that time of the presence of pills in the Mercedes-Benz?
Out of the 750 photos that I reviewed, I did not.
Okay. And so, it's not that you didn't preserve the evidence, you just didn't notice it.
Correct.
And again, based on what you had learned about what happened in this case, you weren't necessarily looking for anything of that nature, right?
Correct.
Because ultimately, whether it was relevant or not relevant was to be determined, right?
Yes, sir.
And you testified that you did watch all of the body camera footage?
Yes, sir.
But initially, other agents, because in terms of the body camera footage in this case, you would agree that it's extensive.
Very much so.
In the sense of after this incident, something like 8 or 10 Minneapolis police officers were on scene, right?
Correct.
They were securing the scene from roughly, 9 o'clock in the evening until 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Correct.
And all of those Minneapolis police officers, pursuant to policy, had body-worn cameras on.
That is correct.
So roughly 5 to 6 hours of body-worn camera footage for all of those.
Approximately.
And and then there's all of the video, the surveillance video. It takes a lot of time to do this, right?
Yes, sir.
And this investigation would be different than a lot of other investigations, wouldn't it? In terms of the officer involved uses of force.
In what way, sir?
Well, this investigation was occurring simultaneously to a court process, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Normally, an investigation is completed, and then it's submitted to some prosecuting organization, and they review it, and they make determinations, right?
Correct.
And that is, of all of the officer, or the majority of the officer-involved incidents that you've been involved with, how it's commonly occurred, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, in this particular case, things were unusual because of that.
That is correct.
Right? And so, information in May or June was not known until November, December, January, etc.
That's correct.
And so, there has been sort of a changing dynamic in terms of the investigation.
Correct.
In terms of the videos that you have watched, You did testify that you watched the drag and walk video.
Yes.
We need to sort out some exhibit number stuff on that real quick. But I want to bring your attention back to, I think this is exhibit 122. And I'm going to, if we could publish, Your Honor, I'm going to start for the record at 20:25:59, and I'm going to ask you to watch. 20:25:59. One. It's the King Bot one you just showed. 122 is this? 127. Yep. Sorry, I don't have my notebook.
You say 122?
127.
127.
And permission to publish.
You in?
I'm going to ask you, sir, to watch when Officer Chauvin stands up. I'm going to ask you to watch Mr. Floyd's left, what would be his left arm, okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. So we'll start for the record at 20:26:03.
What is that? What do you think that is? You say you call what he doing okay? You call what he doing okay? You call what he doing okay, bro? Bro, you call that's fine. Check his boss. Check his boss.
I'm sorry, I'm at the wrong spot. Maybe take this down. I apologize, Your Honor. I had the wrong exhibit pulled up. All right, sorry, it is the right exhibit, exhibit 127, and I have it at 20:28:32. So I'm going to ask you again, sir, to just watch the left arm of Mr. Floyd on the left side of the screen.
On the left side, okay. So are you referring to the body-worn camera side or the
Body-worn camera side.
Okay.
Yes, please. Did you observe Mr. Floyd's left arm on the ground underneath Mr. Chauvin's right knee?
I believe I did, yes.
And when Mr. Chauvin stood up, Mr. Floyd's arm sort of came up, right?
Could I see that again, please?
Sure. I'm going to just hit back 10 seconds and start. It's hard because of this bar. Let's try one more time. And
I have kind of a glare as well.
Pardon?
You can stand
Can you see that?
So what was the question? Repeat the question, please.
Do you observe Mr. Chauvin's right knee to be compressing Mr. Floyd's left arm?
So clarification, I think from what I see here, it was Mr. Chauvin's shin that was compressed in the arm, and the knee was actually on the back.
That's what you believe you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And, but nevertheless, Mr. Floyd's left arm, the tricep area, was in between Mr. Chauvin's either knee or shin, right?
Yes.
did you review and study the body-worn cameras like very closely yourself?
I've seen all of them. I've reviewed most of them closely, yes.
Okay. And did you attempt to understand and hear what various parties were saying at various times?
Yes.
Did you ever hear Mr. Floyd say, "I ate too many drugs"?
No.
Like to publish Exhibit 1007, and I'm going to ask you, sir, to listen to Mr. Floyd's voice. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Did it appear that Mr. Floyd said, "I ate too many drugs"?
Yes, it did.
In the videos that we watched, both on direct examination and we've seen throughout the course of this case, there appears to be a liquid forming underneath the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And that liquid stream goes out into the street towards the curb behind the back of the squad car, correct?
That's correct.
And it's fair to say that liquid coming from underneath the vehicle appears to be coming from underneath the vehicle, correct?
That is correct.
And depending upon your perspective, correct, that appears that could have been urine coming from the body of Mr. Floyd.
Yes, sir.
But we can see based on this that was actually probably condensation from the running squad car, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's common when a squad car is running air conditioning or whatnot, right? Condensation drips from the bottom of the muffler or exhaust system.
Yes, sir.
And you would agree that that's what that trail of liquid appears to be.
Yes, sir.
I have nothing further subject to the discussion we need to have about an exhibit.
Mr. Frank.
Agent Ryerson, with the hybrid, would the figure out the way to say this right? Can the air conditioning run with just the battery and not the gas engine?
Yes, it would.
And you were asked to look at a very short clip of a body-worn camera and ask, I assume for the first time, what Mr. Floyd was saying there.
Yes, sir.
Were you played before that? What questions were asked or things said by the officers before Mr. Floyd says that?
I don't recall right now.
It wasn't part of that video, was it, what occurred beforehand?
No.
Ever had to listen to that piece of audio and try and figure out what Mr. Floyd was saying?
I have not, no.
And so that was an exercise that Mr. Nelson asked you to do for the first time sitting there,
Yes, sir.
without reviewing the conversation beforehand.
Yes, sir.
You were asked about the moment where it appears Mr. Chauvin's right knee is on Mr. Floyd's back just before he gets up.
Yes.
In that, did you notice whether Mr. Floyd's shirt moved?
Yes, it appeared to move
From what?
from Mr. Chauvin's knee.
You were asked to describe this as an unusual case because the investigation kept going on while there was a court process.
Yes.
Is it the typical process then when you investigate a case to hand it over and then be done with it and never work on it again?
No.
When you turn over an investigation, is it common to continue working on that investigation throughout the court process?
Yes.
Have you ever in your career conducting investigations said to a charging authority, sorry, my work's done on the case, I'm not going to work on this any further?
No.
In fact, some of the ongoing investigation that you did was essentially at the request of the defense attorneys.
That is correct.
And I'm referring, just to be clear, I don't want to misrepresent anything, but based on the defense attorneys seeing that pill in the vehicle.
Correct.
I think what Mr. Nelson was asking was, you're not saying in any way that they put that pill there.
No.
That's all I have here.
Anything further?
Are you a car mechanic?
No, sir.
Do you have a hybrid vehicle?
No, sir.
You understand that this squad car has both an engine, like an internal combustion engine that runs on gasoline, and a battery, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so whether the vehicle was running on the battery or the gas engine on May 25th, 2020, you would have no way of knowing, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
All right. Should we give everyone a 10-minute break so we can discuss this issue, or? All right, members of the jury, we're going to give you a 10-minute break while we discuss a different legal issue. We could just remain at this point.
And you're watching News Now from Fox. I'm Daytona Everett. We are covering this Derek Chauvin murder trial from the beginning to the end. Every single day we heard from the defense and the prosecution questioning this use of force investigator, really focusing on the liquid that was coming out seemingly from underneath the car. I'm sure we're going to hear more questions about that. But like we said, we will stay with this trial here happening in Minneapolis. And if anything comes of it, looks like Judge Cahill is speaking. We'll listen in.
Work with Mr. Schaefer on that. Also, 1007 is an exhibit, although it is part of another one.
And the audio was just cut off there momentarily for us, but we don't want to miss a beat in anything that happens with Judge Cahill speaking. There's no audio.
Both parties agree it was offered and received earlier? Is that right? I'm just asking for a status.
I would offer 1007.
Any objection to 1007? 1007 is formally received. All right, you guys, let's circle back at 2:30.